Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Brandon, and I'm a Christian life coach. I've been doing some videos. I've actually done a lot of videos on sustainable living from a faith perspective, a Christian faith perspective. Those are already on my website at thirdcoastcoach.com. What I'm doing now is, well, a combination of things. I'm doing some videos on sharing more about life coaching. To help people who may not know what life coaching is about, just to give a little bit more information to educate on life coaching, as that is my one of my pursuits. Uh, and then I also am sharing some information and lessons about a cult I got into 10 years ago. It was a satanic cult. I didn't know it was a cult. I didn't know it was a cult, period, much less a satanic cult. When I got into it, I was deceived into it. However, um, I learned a lot, right? So, as a Christian, I feel called to share some of the lessons and learning. I know all of this is probably already out there and can be accessed other ways. However, it's my understanding that when we go through an experience and we share from our personal journey that is unique, it can help other people in certain ways that maybe it's more appropriate for them coming from you. So, my goal is to share as much as I can about what I've learned. Uh, I did start a blog, and I've actually taken the blog down, and I've decided to try a different approach with this. So I'm going to start doing these videos. The blog was just audio. Now I'm doing video and audio. And I'm just talking right now about some of the lessons, which I did have in my blog. So if you had listened to my blog up to the point I had completed it, some of this may be repetitive. Uh, but this is the format I'm now using. So these videos I'm doing on, the few I've done on life coaching and the ones that I do on lessons and anything I want to talk about my cult experience, will also be going up on my website at thirdcoastcoach.com. I'm not there yet right now. I have the videos on YouTube. And then soon I will have them up on my website. Oh, I also have them, I'm posting them to Facebook. Okay, so a little bit on my background. Today, I just quickly wanted to talk about divide and conquer, because this is one of their strategies. It's, from what I'm understanding, it's one of the oldest, if not the oldest, war strategy uh, known. And now that I'm thinking about it, thinking back to the Garden of Eden when we were deceived, and I mean, that was it. We were divided from God. We were separated from God, right? Through our sin. So, yeah, that's like the ultimate divide and conquer, is to divide us from God or separate us from God, even if it's just in consciousness, right? Understanding, which happens, the idea of consciousness, like we can be close to God but not realize it. And if we can be deceived into not realizing it and thinking we're not, then that's what we'll live by, right? So divide and conquer is one of the strategies they used with me. Obviously, they want they did isolate me, right? Uh, they also taught me that there is no God. These are the first two, I think, things I want to talk about in the next few videos, is these lessons. One, divide and conquer, which I'll talk about today. And then the next one I want to talk about is the idea that there is no God, which they also sold to me. Okay, so on divide and conquer, uh, I was already isolated to a certain degree. I was raised Christian. However, I left the Christian church in my 20s after my mom passed away. I didn't feel comfortable in the Catholic Church. I had had some experiences in the Catholic Church which were less than desirable to me, and I didn't trust it, right? I had trust issues with the churches. And as I understand it now, there's been a lot of manipulation, a lot of misinformation, a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of Satan's arrows that have affected our churches, especially in this country with capitalism, which is definitely money driven, right? And we have the what people call capitalist Christianity here in our country. Um, I don't trust that, right? So there's a lot of things I don't trust. And back then, when I first got into that cult, I had issues with the churches and how the information from the Bible is presented to us and used by us towards each other. So I was already a little bit isolated, uh, but once I got into the cult, it got worse. So there were different ways that I think they consciously tried to isolate me uh, from my family and friends. One of the one of the things that happened is I got to a point where I couldn't speak. Well, I couldn't even speak the word God or Jesus. I became so spiritually oppressed that I literally could not speak the word God. It couldn't come out of my mouth. And then I got to a point where the information that they were giving me and the teachings, the false doctrines, they in the Bible, I believe it's referenced as like the doctrine of demons. Uh, it is a doctrine. They do have a doctrine. Uh, the the best way I can sum this up, like to compare the doctrines, the doctrine of Jesus Christ, Jesus, Yeshua, as I understand his doctrine to be versus the doctrine of demons. In the Bible, just to give you a quick example of this, there's a verse in the Bible where Jesus saves a woman from being stoned. I think she was an adulteress. And he told the men who were about to stone her to death, "He who is without sin cast the first stone," right? And they all walked away. Uh, he told her, uh, "Did nobody condemn you?" And, she said, "Well, no, they all," and he said, "Well, then neither do I." And he said, "Go and sin no more." Right? So that I believe to be the true way and the true love and compassion, grace, forgiveness, leading of our God, Father God, and Christ Jesus. To recognize the sin, love the sinner, not the sin, but the sinner, to have forgiveness, compassion, grace, mercy, understanding, and the leading to go and not continue the wrong behavior, right? But the doctrine of demons, it's different. So it recognizes sin, what's wrong and right, for sure. But then it says, go, keep on sinning, and figure out a way not to feel guilty about it, which is what they do. They justify their behavior of sin and wrongdoing. And it can, if you buy it, and I'll get into later what more about that doctrine and how that is. But if you buy it, then you definitely lessen your guilt, feelings of guilt. You can lessen your feelings of guilt around the wrongdoing that you're doing. So they have this doctrine, and in the Bible, I do believe it's called a doctrine of demons. But they sold this to me and they were teaching it to me. And I knew inside, even though before I had been woken up to who they were, I was still under deceit. I was believing they were the good guys. They presented themselves to me as angels of light, and specifically Archangel Michael and Archangel Gabriel. I had a group of uh, channelers who were channeling spirits who were claiming to be those angels. Uh, But back to divide and conquer and isolation. So I was taking in this doctrine and this information, and it was very contrary to what I had been taught in my Christian faith and what I knew to be in the Bible as far as good Christian teaching. It was also contrary to a lot of what my friends and family would probably approve of or understand if they hadn't gone through what I went through, what I guess is called indoctrination into a cult, to where you really start believing these things and you make them part of your worldview. Uh, when I got to the point where I had accepted a lot of their teachings, not knowing who they were yet, right? It isolated me because I couldn't talk about these things with my family or friends. There was nobody I could really talk to about it. I didn't have anybody in my circle of reality that would understand what I was going through, who I was involved with. Even under the deceit and the guise of them being angels of light, it was still a being who was channeling spirits or channeling angels and teaching. And I mean, even that, not knowing it's a satanic cult and that was all deceit, even on that level, I couldn't talk about it with my family and friends because most of my friends were Christian, Catholic, and a lot of my family were of no faith. So it did isolate me. Just the fact that I was involved with them and taking in their information and listening to their doctrine. So I got to a point where I couldn't speak. I was very oppressed. A lot of it was, some of it was me, and then some of it was them oppressing me. And I'll get into later oppression and how that worked for me, what happened there. If you had listened to my blog, you probably already heard some of this about spiritual oppression and how I experienced it. I did get to a point where I couldn't speak about a lot of it, and it did isolate me inside, right? So divide and conquer is definitely one of those strategies. So I want to offer today um, hope. If you are listening to this and you've been through anything similar to what I've been through, or maybe you're going through it right now, uh, or maybe you're looking at getting into one of these groups. Well, for me, it was the New Age movement. Satan will work in any arena he can, right? But the New Age, quote unquote, New Age movement was where how I got involved in it. So if you are or can relate to this information, I would like to offer hope because I was able to overcome that isolation and a lot of what they wanted to happen as far as the divide and conquer, to keep me isolated and away from help, and obviously God and Christ and Jesus and the saints, who are the ones who are going to get you out of it, right? They want to keep you away from them. So I was able to overcome it, and I believe you can too, with God's help, obviously. We can do it. And I want to offer encouragement and hope, and definitely tell you, if you're hesitant, you're afraid, it was fear for me, and it most likely would be for most people. Uh, Fear was at the root of me not speaking up and staying isolated inside and not reaching out and asking for help, knowing something's wrong, knowing something's not right, but being confused because of the deceit, right? Very confused. So you can overcome it. Uh, when I did finally reach out for help, and it was a while. I was in that group for 4 years before I got woken up to who they were. And then once I got woken up to who they were, it took a little bit more time before I could reach out for help. It wasn't much longer, but a little bit. When I did finally reach out for help, I remember sitting in a doctor's office. I reached out for help from all areas, right? We've got this divide between the mainstream psychology and mainstream faith. Uh, there's a little bit of a divide, right? Where a lot of doctors don't recognize the spiritual aspects of our condition. And then there's a lot of spiritual leaders who don't know or understand or recognize the physical Im- impacts of our condition and all of that. So it's both. I believe it is both. It has been for me, physical and spiritual. So I did both. I reached out to the churches and I reached out to the medical profession for help. So I remember sitting there I think I was in a psychiatrist's office. Obviously, that's where I ended up, right? Uh, and I wanted to, my intent was to tell him what was going on with me, what had happened, what I'd been through, why I was trying to reach out for help. I mean, I was really set. I was in there ready to reach out for help. I needed help. And I sat there in front of him and I had the thoughts in my head and in my heart of what I wanted to speak, but I couldn't. I tried to open my mouth and speak and nothing would come out. Literally, I could not speak of what I wanted to. And I did get some out. I did through, it was very hard, but I did get some out and I spoke of what I was involved in and where I was and how I needed help. At least enough, I got enough out for the doctor to be able to do like an initial assessment, right? And start treating me, obviously, with medication. That was the first thing they did. Uh, but what the doctor told me was really interesting, and I still find this interesting uh, because I've talked to doctors about that experience that first experience of sitting in a doctor's office trying to get help and not being able to speak of what was going on with me. Uh, the faith side tells me there's some oppression there where the demons were trying to stop me from getting help and speaking and basically telling on them, right? So from the faith side, they tell me this was some spiritual oppression uh, going on in that doctor's office. And then from the medical side, they tell me that the reason I couldn't speak was my brain, my mind was protecting me. Okay. Because once I spoke of it, it would become more real and I would have to accept and come out more fully, come out of denial of what I was involved in and where I was and what was going on. And so the doctor told me that the reason I couldn't speak was I was trying to protect myself from making it more real. Uh, I actually now sitting here thinking back on this, I think it's probably a combination of both and maybe even a third thing. And some of it is just fear. I was afraid, right? Um, so yeah, I remember reaching out for help. It was very hard. But if you're in this situation where you need help, I encourage you to do so, even if all you can do is go into that office or go into that church, whichever avenue you decide to reach out for help or both. Or maybe it's to go to a friend, right? Wherever you're going to go to start reaching out for help. Uh, Even if you have trouble or you're afraid, do it. Do it and let whatever can come out. As much as you can get it out and start the process of recovery. Okay, because it's gonna start your process. So I encourage you, have hope, have faith. I am not 100% recovered. It's been it's been 10 years since I got involved in that group. It's been now about 7 years, maybe. I've been fighting. Uh, yeah, 6 7 years, 6 years. I've been fighting my way through recovery from that cult. I'm still in recovery. 6 years, 7 years. out of that group, I'm still in recovery from that cult experience. And I can tell you it's been a long journey. However, and honestly, I don't know if recovery ever stops, because I'm not only recovering from that cult, but I'm also at the same time recovering just from being born into this world and everything I've experienced that's not even related to that cult, right? So, yeah, I'm in recovery. But I can tell you this, I have made gains. I have recovered a lot. It can get better. You can get clear. God can help you untangle the lies and the deceit from the truth. Uh, you can recover. So hold hope. I encourage you to reach out for professional help. If you have to start with a friend, it's understandable. But I do also encourage you to reach out for professional help. Reaching out for help will probably be another topic, and I'll get more into that because we're already 22 minutes into this video, and there's more to say on that as far as reaching out for mainstream help and how challenging that can be after being in a satanic cult. So, at least it was for me. So, I want to talk more about that, but I want to go ahead and stop here today because it's already been a lot of information for today, and I want to try to keep these videos relatively short. So, I'm going to stop there. Thank you for listening. I hope some of this has made sense to you, and if needed, I hope it has helped you. So until next time, I pray God keep you, guide you, reconcile you, lead you, keep you close to Him and His love and His goodwill and good ways for us as humans. Praise be to God. So thank you. I hope you have a great rest of your day.